This week in my Boruto Academia, we spent a significant amount of time in the whole friendship building aspect of things, and then by the end, we get a cliffhanger because of a mysterious threat. Now here's the funny part, alright? That concept can apply to both the anime episode and the monthly manga chapter. It's essentially the same thing. We spent a lot of time on the friendship building aspect of things, and we end with a cliffhanger because of a mysterious threat. So you just got served the same story twice, but with different characters. In the manga's case, it's Tento. In the anime's case, it's Mitsuki. I like how they pronounce it without the U. Like, the U doesn't sound... Like, with Sasuke, you don't say Sasuke, you say Sasuke. Mitsuki. Also, the manga's pretty much just 40 pages of them dicking around. Like, just getting to know each other, just being awkward, throwing shuriken, and there's a lot of Naruto trading card game spam. Which, by the way, I will admit that I will, if that game ever comes out, I might get a couple of cards, or at least try and buy some rare ones. By the way, was it ever revealed which card Boruto wanted? I don't think it was explicitly stated, but I guess we can assume that it's Sasuke's, right? And one of the good things from the chapter, I thought, was that Boruto at least clearly defined what he meant in Boruto the movie when he said, I want to be like Sarada's dad. I want to be like Sasuke. So in the manga, he explicitly states that he wants to be somebody who is of help, who actually gives support to the Hokage. And since Sarada is the one who wants to become Hokage, I mean, you can pretty much, you can draw your conclusions based off of that. Also, if you think about the character of Tento, you'll find that he pretty much fits like the mold that Denki fits in the anime. They're both kind of like these kids that come from money, come from a family of resources, and they're kind of socially awkward, don't understand a lot of the social norms, they're newly introduced. Boruto befriends them, then they end up learning something thanks to Boruto. So it's kind of like, wow, like same story, same character. What's going on here? I really hope that at least one of these characters ends up being like somewhat related to Kawaki, or at least one of these characters has some long-term consequences for the I guess the plot of the entire series, because it's like, yeah, it's like, do you notice the mold? It's so obvious. I just really want to know how the anime and the manga will be interconnected in the future, because it's like if the manga is taking place after the anime, right? So if Boruto met Tento after all this experience that he had in the academy, then he'd probably be like, hey, you remind me kind of like my friend Denki. He was kind of like weird like you, but he's my friend now. Either that or he's dead. Or he's Kawaki. Look, all I know is sooner or later one of these characters is either going to be connected or related to Kawaki, or they're going to be Kawaki, alright? It's kind of like the whole like who is Toby thing back in the day. And I will admit to the fact that I actually thought that this week's episode of Boruto was actually better than last week's episode, because we got more characterization, both from Shino and Mitsuki. So yeah, and I like Mitsuki anyway, because I like his backstory. He's an interesting character to me. Shino, I thought it was interesting to see how he struggles with being a teacher, how it's not just like, oh look, I'm a teacher and I have absolutely no feelings about it. It's like, no, he actually feels like a failure. He feels like he's not connecting well with his kids. And I think in this episode he actually said that I've always been kind of socially awkward. So that's good. That is substance, and I like that. Oh my gosh, Kurenai looks so old in this. What happened? Also, the whole thing ends in a cliffhanger, so there's really no rush to get to the lesson of the week. In fact, there is no lesson of the week because it's kind of inconclusive. So at least it breaks the pattern. And look, last week I said a lot of sarcastic things, right? And I've been doing these videos for a while now, and part of doing these videos for a while is that sometimes you kind of feel responsible for critiquing stuff as honestly as you can, and sometimes that involves saying things that people just don't like. And I'm okay with that. It's okay to disagree. I don't mind. That last Wednesday I did the review, I came back, people needed me at the clinic, I did my job, I came back home, I saw the episode, I just didn't feel for it. I'm sorry. That's all there is. And at the end of the day, I think that as a reviewer, my best objective, or in fact my primary objective to me, is to get you to think about stuff that you wouldn't normally have thought about. If I can get you to question or think about stuff that you probably hadn't thought about before, my job is done. If you thought the last chapter of Boruto was actually really good and that's something that you enjoyed and you just thought it was great and amazing, that's good. Good for you. I'm glad you're enjoying this. I really am. To me, it was honestly 40 pages of them dicking around with like a minor emotional moment in the middle, and then that cliffhanger, that mysterious threat. But anyway, going back to the anime, look at Boruto's face in this. Tell me that's not Naruto's face. That's like a legit copy of his old man. So it's not enough that they look very, very similar, like facial feature wise, but he also has like these expressions that are very exactly the same as the old man. when he was growing up. So yeah, I really enjoyed the matchup between Mitsuki and Iwabe, the practice matchup, because you know we get to learn more about how his combat ability or his combat movements are similar to that of a snake. I think Sadova is the one who makes the observation, to the point where he even tries to choke the living hell out of Iwabe, which is something that a snake would do, you know, just suffocate the prey. Also, it's obvious that Mitsuki knows something about what's going on with this evil dark chakra that is possessing people, because when one of the workers gets possessed, he actually notices that Boruto knows that the chakra is in this human being, and he's like, oh, so you can see it. So I want to know if he knows about the chakra or if he knows about Boruto's new eye thing. That's interesting to me. It's like something that was introduced in this episode that I thought was pretty interesting. But again, it's all related to characterization in regards to Mitsuki. By the end, Shino-sensei gets possessed, and we see this shadow, the silhouette in the wall in the background that is very similar, if not identical, to the demon animal that Boruto released last week. And the thing is, Shino's bugs are dangerous, right? They are not a joke. Remember when they were trying to look for Itachi, and Toby came in, and he's like, I'm going to use my power because I wasn't part of the Sasuke retrieval team, and he uses those bugs. And the only reason why Toby was able to escape that swarm was because of the Mangekyo. I mean, he barely got out of that one, right? That was some dangerous stuff. So yeah, I really want to see what they managed to do with Shino against Shino's bugs. Also, you see that his left eye is glowing red, and it's only one, all right? So again, I make the comparison. If it's only one eye, is there a relationship between whoever's possessing Shino right now and Boruto's ability with his right eye, right? Because it's kind of like the opposite. Boruto has one, this guy has another, or at least whoever's possessing Shino has another eye thing. I think in the preview you actually see him bleed. So is there some type of like a bootleg Sharingan deal going on here? Maybe something similar to the Sharingan that you can pass on to whoever you possess if they're of like a higher level? I don't know, because Shino's, again, he's not a scrub. And so with, well, actually, that was a part of like the manga chapter by the end. Like people were saying, yeah, Shino-sensei is probably very weak because his card is just like very, very common. Also, I thought it was kind of off in the manga how there literally was no supporting cast around Boruto at all. None of the supporting characters were in this chapter. It was just like Boruto and Tento, and that was it. And another thing is that the curse mark on his hand doesn't get talked about at all in this chapter. It just kind of gets, you know, swept under the rug. So, and you know, I think the hardest part about this is that it's monthly. So waiting a month for that amount of progression is what makes it even more difficult. But yeah, like I said, Shino's eye is glowing red. We know that Boruto can use his eye to see that chakra. We know that Kawaki's curse mark glows red when it activates. So yeah, I'm just putting two and two together. Could Kawaki be the one behind all of these attacks? Because it doesn't seem like Mitsuki like is behind any of that, because otherwise why would he help them by taking out the guy in the alley? Doesn't make a lot of sense. And initially, like again, because of last week's episode, I actually thought, oh, when Boruto freed that monster, he actually freed Mitsuki. But no, I don't think that's the case anymore. So could it be that it's Kawaki? Because I think it would be a cool kind of like, again, a change in terms of like the villain or the antagonist, because one of the things that Naruto did, especially Naruto Shippuden did, was that whenever we got a villain, we got a story explaining why they were kind of that way. We always got an explanation in terms of like, oh, this guy is evil or villainous because of his past and what happened to him. I think the only exception to that would kind of be like Deidara or Zetsu. But for the most part, we almost always got an explanation, a flashback, kind of a sad flashback to kind of help us empathize with the character and be like, oh, well, I guess I can kind of see why he's a douche. But it'd be cool if Kawaki from a very early age was like going around possessing people this way, because that's like, oh yeah, Kawaki, man, that guy's an asshole. Like, you know, from a very early age, he was possessing kids. Also, quick shout out to Sarada in this episode for being part of the team and being the distraction. And it's funny because when she begins to attack, she actually says, oh, this is so distracting, when in fact, that's actually her role, to distract the enemy. So shout out to her. That's it for me. I thought it was a pretty good episode of Boruto this week. The manga chapter could have been better. That's why I'm just kind of like giving you my thoughts, because really there's not a whole lot I can say other than what I said in this video. Please let me know your thoughts about the stuff that I discussed in the comments section below. Also, let me know what you're enjoying the most. Are you enjoying Boruto the manga more, or are you enjoying Boruto the anime more, or both, or neither? And in fact, whatever you answer, please tell me why that is. That's actually the most important part, the why. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And yeah, catch you guys later. Take care.